I'm Elle. I'm the Keystone Stitcher. Welcome. Today is September 15th, 2023, and I'm back for a 2-week update. And I've got a lot to show you. But before we get into all the cross stitch, I want to address a couple of things. First, I want to apologize for the quality of the video on the 1st. Yeah, it was one of those days, and I don't know if I'm going to need to get a new phone or I don't know. But I was having a lot of issues with the phone and then outside noise. So I closed the window today. There shouldn't be any more problems with noise. The other thing I want to address is that I had actually gone back and reviewed my video in YouTube, which I rarely do. And I realized that not only is YouTube putting commercials at the beginning of my video, but they stuck one in the middle as well. I do not monetize this channel. Where YouTube puts commercials is not in my control. I've checked to see if I can find a way that they will at least only put them in the beginning, and there's nothing I can do. My apologies for that. I know how disruptive it can be to have a video have a commercial right in the middle of a video. I don't like it. I'm sure you don't like it. Again, I apologize. So let's get on to the cross stitch. So first off, I have a start and a finish. This is called Mary, and it was from the Just Cross Stitch 2022 Christmas Ornament Edition. So last year's Just Cross Stitch Ornament. This design was stitched on black, and it had, you know what, let me show you the piece and we'll talk about it. So this is Mary, and this was originally stitched on black, and it was on 14 count Aida. I put this on 18 count Barnwood by Picture This Plus. I had a little scrap of it. It's one of my favorite darker fabrics. I made a couple other changes. The berries, the two colors that are in the berries were also in the word Mary, and I wanted Mary to have its own color. So I think it's 498 and 666, and I changed Mary to 321. Mary was backstitched in DMC Diamond 3822, and there were lines in the diamond to make this look like a round ornament. And I didn't feel that it needed it. So this is what I came up with. This is a 4-inch hoop that I stained using English Chestnut by mInwax. And I just thought that I wanted a darker finish on the wood as opposed to the typical bamboo that you see on these hoops. So that's Mary. That is my first start and finish, my only start and finish. The other one is Halloween Resurrection. This is by Lone Elm Lane. There we go. And I had turned this into a cushion cover, and I decided I didn't want that. I wanted to do this in a hoop. Again, I stained the hoop. Actually, I can show you. So this is the bamboo, the pale, and I didn't like that, and so I stained it. And yeah. So that now is a hoop finish. This needed a 10-inch hoop, and I don't recall. I think this is a 14 count. Could be a 14 or a 16 count Aida, and I don't know what color it was. So that was one I took apart and redid. Okay, so now let's get into new stitching. So first up is my new start. This is Weaver's Tapestry. This is by Magical Quilts. They have a blogspot so it's Magical Quilts blogspot. I can never say that right. .com. I'll just put it on the screen. I start at the bottom. I'm doing this on a piece of 18 count Skopolos Aida from the Sewing Shop, and it's TheSewingShop.ca because Kaylee's in Canada. I started my design from the bottom because I wanted to line up the modeling on the fabric. So this here was what I thought was this was released in 48 parts. It was a SAL that was done through this website. And so I started at the bottom. I wanted to get this spot right here where I wanted it. And I did 48. Then when I finished 48, I went to 47 and realized I already did 47. So it turns out that the way they released these, so they released band 1, and then when part 2 came out, part 2 had band, so all of part 1 and part 2, so you could see what you were doing. And then part 3 has all of part 2 and then all of part 3. So what I did here was 48 and 47, and this little section you see here is 45 and 46. Most of the bands are, or most of the releases of the bands are only about 10 stitches high. So I'm doing this in 3371, and it really, I'm not, yeah, it kind of does. It really pops off the fabric, and the two work really well together. So I'm doing this with Anna, who is on Instagram as Anna Stitches Autumn, and is on YouTube with her friend Dawn Marie on DM's Crafty Vortex. And she is using, you need to check it out. She's posted her start on Instagram, and I'm sure now that we're into September, they'll have a video out pretty soon, and you'll be able to see it on her video. So that was my new start. Then I had another one that I pulled out. By the way, I have a total of 7 projects over, that included the new start, over the course of these last 14 days. Typically, if you follow me in the past, I've only had 3 to 4 projects for an entire month. So I've really changed how I'm stitching. So this next one is Resistance is Futile, and it will look like this. It's basically 10 bands, the way I count it. It's by Long Dog Samplers, and I had completed the first one, and now I'm doing the second band. And let me pull this back so you can see where it was. I'll put it right above. And yeah, so that's, I'm stitching this on a 20 count Aida in the color Aquarius by Color and Cotton. And the floss is a special edition. This is the floss, and it's by HandDyedByRolanda. It's hard to read the card on my camera, but yeah, isn't that pretty? So that is my only long dog right there, and I'm loving it. Okay, so the next one is Stone Expression. And I actually have a thread dangling here where I was working. And this one is by StitchingMoonDesigns. I'm stitching this on a 20 count Evenweave. I hand dyed it myself because I had never dyed Evenweave, and so I wanted to know how the dye would look on Evenweave. And so I dyed a piece of Aida and a piece of Evenweave to see the difference. So that's why this is dyed. It was just an experiment. When I started this, I had 7.44% done, and I'm now at 8.76%. And it's really easy. I'll put it next to it, but it's really easy to see what I did. So I started this up here, and then the summer, my granddaughter was here in June. She asked me to count down and stitch this face. And that really annoys me to have a piece right in the middle. And so what I stitched is this right in here to try to connect the two pieces. So let me bring in her face, because her face is gorgeous. The artist is Giuseppe Miconi, and Megan lives in Norway, and the artist is from Italy, but he is living in Norway, and so she received permission to chart his designs, and she has a new one of his up that I'm looking at and telling myself I have to wait a while. I can't start another by the same artist until I finish one. So that is Stone Expression. The next one is A Promise of Tomorrow. And this is, the artwork is by Shawna Erback, and it's charted by Thread Geeks. I'm stitching this again on another piece of 20 count Evenweave. And here we are. So that's where that got to. I started this at 7.03%, and I'm now at 10.57%. So yeah, this is going to be a really tiny piece. So what I did, you can see this arrow right here, I was marking the page. So this is the first page, and I finished the first page, and now I moved on to, no, that's not the first page. I don't know what that arrow is. Anyway, I finished the first page, which is actually here, and then I moved on and started the second page. So yeah. So here is, I guess I'll put it next to it. Here's the before. And now you can see that moon behind the tree. I really love this. This is a lot of fun to work on. Okay, so my next one is One for Sorrow. Now this is one that, let's have a discussion about this one first. This is one that, excuse me, that needed my stitching style to change in order to get any progress on it. So the background on this is basically just blues, and very pale blues that I'm into at this point. It's 3752, 3753, 3756, 747. So there's not a lot of detail. And when I would sit down to stitch, I would tell myself, okay, what project am I going to pull out? Oh, I'll pull this one out. Great. I'll work on this for 7 days. But I would pull this out and immediately go, oh God, I don't want to do this for 7 days. And so I decided to reduce the number of days that I work on my full coverage to, 3 to 4, if needed, 2 days. And this one finally got some progress. So this is One for Sorrow. And I will put a picture up here of where it was. Pretty easy to see where it was. So this one was at 6.06%. I'm now at 7.83% for a total of just over 2,100 new stitches. So I added a little bit more up here in the background. I finished the head and added a little bit more in the beak, and then I added all of this in the body and the wing. So that was huge progress for this one, because I have really struggled to get in the groove on this one. But by telling myself that I don't have to work for any real length of time on it, it allowed me to just relax. And when I was done with it and I needed more color, I could just put it down and move on. So the next one I worked on is what I'm calling my oldest whip. It's not technically a full coverage, but it's mostly full coverage. And this is 4 Seasons by Soda Stitch. This one's getting big. This is going to be hard to show in a little bit. So this is 4 Seasons by Soda Stitch. And I started this at 25.87%. I'm now at 29.48%. So where I was working, I was filling in this section here. So now you can see the stairs coming up to the door, and you can see all that. And then I finished some of the ground, brought the ground over here. And where I'd had a couple reds in here, I carried them over into here. Because this building, those reds will continue here. So the roof line here is part of that building. And then I finished filling in most of that roof line there. Brought over this roof line and some of the details here. This is going to be a cream colored building. And then this here is the end of that building where it goes into a dark shadowy area, and then lots of trees both at the top and the bottom. So I'm not sure how to put a picture in. Let's try putting a picture in next to my head here. There we go. We'll do this side here. And that's where I am on that one. So it's really nice to start getting progress on this one. This one just kind of floundered. I struggled to work on this from a paper chart. It was I'd say laminated, but that's not really the word. But it was some sort of plastic coating on the design. And so you couldn't mark it off. It was huge. I mean, when you opened it up, it was, the length of my arms, and it was on both sides. So you had to be careful that you didn't fold it or you would start losing the symbols. So I really struggled with that one. But now that that one is I now have it in Pattern Keeper, I can work on it and I'm thrilled. So this next one is Midsummer's Eve. The artwork is by Jennifer Taylor. It's charted by Contemporary Cross. I'm stitching this on a 20 count Aida. And here's the before. So this was at 5.40%. It's now at 5.99%. And if I had realized that, I'll bring it in closer, I would have actually done a little bit more to hit 6%. So right here, this block was done. This top block. This is really hard to show. And then I had a little bit of stitching in here. These stitches down here were already in. I had quite a few ninja stitches missing. So I worked on all of those and got those filled in. Started filling in this column, and then all of this is new. So if I pull it back and put the comparison above, using this here as your guide as to where the last block was, you can see the progress. So it's still not a whole lot to see. I mean, we're still, you got some lighter spots in here, but we're still working on that sky. So it'll be nice to finally get into some of the movement and the dandelions and the mountains in the back, the hills. That'll be nice. Okay, so this next one is, I don't think I even wrote this one up. This one is Strength, and the artwork is by Nicole Payne, and I did not write down where I was, but I can tell you where I am in 2 seconds here. So while I do that, let me put above my head where it was. And I did add a little bit more of that black. And I'm currently at 7.78%. I don't know how I met. So actually, if I told you I had 7 projects, I had 8. So I brought this over a little bit further, filled in a little bit more here, and I outlined this. So actually from here over is new. And what I did is, this is funny. So I was working on this one night, and I knew that I was going to run errands the next day. And I thought, oh, you know what? I've got that whole section of black. If I outline where I need to be, I can take this with me. And then while I'm waiting for my ride to come back, because as many of you know, I'm disabled. I take what is basically a taxi for wheelchairs to get around and run my errands. And so I factor in a little extra time so that my ride doesn't show up before I'm ready to be picked up. And that gives me time to sit outside. And I knew where I was going. There would be a beautiful area to sit in the sun. And yeah, so I was going to take this. So I get up in the morning and I start getting ready to go. And I hear a noise and I look up and it is pouring. And the rain is just blowing in. And I'm racing around the apartment, closing windows. And I look at this and go, yeah, not taking that with me. But that evening was our first NFL season game. And I thought, hey, perfect. I can work on that because I can watch the game and I can just mindlessly fill in black. So that's what I'm working. When I go somewhere, I can take that with me. If it's not pouring out, and fill in the black. It can be kind of a travel piece, and it can also be for like football, when I'm watching football. So that's what I've worked on. I did a few other things here. Let's start with purchases. So the first one I did is I bought some more plastic bobbins because I had the cardboard ones, but they don't fit right in my double-sided case. So my master set, I have all on plastic bobbins, but my backup set, I have a lot still on the cardboard, and it makes it really hard to close the lid because they're just slightly too tall. So I bought a bunch more of those so that I can convert those. And I also picked up another piece of aida. This is an 18 count and it's 36 by 43. This is Very Light Pewter by Zweigart. It's one of my favorite colors to work on. It's what I'm working on for strength. And it's nice to work on something other than white when I'm working on my full coverage. So I did that. I also picked up this, and I'm going to show you this one in a minute. So this is Tulip Soft Matte Fabric Paint in yellow. And I bought that so that I could paint fabric. And you're probably going, what in the world is this for? So I need to put a second coat on. There's a couple areas that are not real well covered. Now, if you've never painted fabric, it will change your fabric. It will make it a little stiffer. But I mix this with water, and that way it soaks into the fibers, but it doesn't fill it up and close up the holes, because you don't want your holes blocked with the fabric paint. But because this is fabric paint, when I use this, I will put this in scroll rod because I don't want to be forcing this into my hoop and mess up the paint. And you may be asking, why in the world did you paint fabric? So this is a 18 count, I believe, 20 count aida, and it is for this. And this is a project that I've looked at for years. I've seen this, when did I first see this? 4, maybe 5 years ago. And I was instantly drawn to it. I thought it was so cool. But I kept saying, you know what? It doesn't go with your house. And even though the style of my home was not conducive to modern art, and the house that I lived in was built in 1904. So it was a very old farmhouse that had a lot of details that told you its age. And that to me just did not work. But now that I'm in a newer building, my apartment building was built in the 70s, it lends itself better to a modern piece. So what is this? This is called Beetle Pop, and it is by Lux Nova Studio, and it's charted by Unconventional X Stitch. So that is one I'm really itching to start that. It's not a full coverage. So the reason I painted the fabric is that all that yellow is not stitched. So this is one of a handful of pieces that Unconventional X Stitch has that is not a full coverage project. So I did that. The other thing I did, I'm not sure if I can get this to show. Yeah, it does show up. I dyed a piece of fabric. So I just recently dyed this. Let me show you the back. And I did this with a mix of tan. So normally when I dye fabric, I just shove it in a jar, mix up my dye, pour it over it, cap it, and leave it sit for 20 minutes or half an hour. This one, I scrunched it up, stuck it in I had a styrofoam dish, and first I poured tan over it, and let's see if we can get all of this in, and then I put some orange over it, and then some charcoal, and then some very diluted. So yeah, I'm just trying to show you all. I've never done multiple colors. What I've done in the past, when I've done something like this, is a tone on tone, where maybe I'll start with a very diluted dye and use that, and then I'll add a little bit more dye to make it a little bit darker and add some highlights and do that until I get the colors I want. But this is the first time I've used multiple colors. And you may be asking what I'm doing this with. Well, this is for my grandson's piece. This is for Pokemon. And I kept looking at that thinking, okay, I don't really want to stitch it on white. But I'd go, okay, blue. And then I go, no, there's still blue characters. So I thought about the Very Light Pewter, but I thought, no, I just don't feel that. And then I thought, okay, I've got orange. What would orange look like for Pokemon? I thought, no, not really. Plus there's orange characters. So then it was like charcoal. I'll go with the charcoal. I was like, no, there's gray characters. So that's when I decided I was going to do this. And I did this, I think I let it sit in the dye for about 10 minutes. But I thought if everything is very soft and subtle, then the characters will still pop on this. So that is that. Now I'm not really ready to start Pokemon because I'm kind of enjoying stitching my projects for a while. That might be a New Year's start, something like that. I don't know when I'll start that, but I know he would like to have it. As far as, I also had one other purchase. This is called Poison Fruit. The art is, by Yezi Petra. I think I said that right. I looked up how to pronounce the name because it is spelled Jiri, but I believe it's pronounced Yezi. And I looked it up, and now I forgot, but I believe it's Yezi. And I'm not typically one who enjoys the Adam and Eve pieces, but this I just thought was so cool. This is, you can find this on Etsy, and the shop is called Maxie's Patterns. She has permission from the artist to chart this, and she lets you know. If you go through her shop, you will see that she has some projects that she tells you she has permission from the artist, and other ones she'll tell you she has created herself using AI. And so you can, just read her description. She's very upfront with what she has. So yes, as far as moving forward, I'm itching for a new start. I really love that Poison Fruit. Oh, I love that Poison Fruit. But I also love Beetle Pop. These are both large projects. Beetle Pop is only 58,000 stitches. So it's not huge as far as, my projects go. But the other one I'm trying to talk myself into is to do the feed sack. And I've already picked out the fabric. It's a picture of this plus, I don't remember the name of it. Let me see if I can do this quietly. It is Haunted. This is Haunted by Picture This Plus, because that would go more with my decor than this fabric that they used. I don't recall what it's called. But that wouldn't take too long to finish, and it'd be nice to have that done for Christmas. So if I continue to have that itch for a new start, it's going to be probably the Reindeer Feed Sack, which is by Carriage House Samplings, or it's going to be Beetle Pop. So tell me below, which one do you want to see me start? Do you want to see Beetle Pop, or do you want to see the Feed Sack? And maybe if I decide I need a new start, I will go to you guys and see what you want to see and let that be what I choose. So I'm not going to get into any other plans because I'm stitching what I want when I want. So I know that I want to start pulling out some of the other projects that I have that I haven't touched so far this month, and get them going. But I only have a couple more. I have, I think, 14 projects total, 13 or 14. So you can see I have 8 here, well, 7 without the new start and finish. So I have 7 here. That doesn't leave me too many more to do to finish and touch everything that I have this month. That said, I'm going to leave you. I hope you have a great rest of the month, and I will see you on October 1st. Thanks. Bye.